Hello, fellow property owners. This is Lloyd Sherman. Today, I want to um, bring you some background information on an issue I think we need to address within the village. So I'm going to do this because of the length, in two segments. First will be more of the background, and then two will be the structure and recommendations. And I really want to hear what the Future Funding Task Force has to say at today's meeting. So with that, um, this two-part series needs to be referred to, or is being referred to by me, as a culture shift that needs to take place within the POA, and why. And actually that needs to take place on several different levels, but let's get to the background first. But before we do that, I have some prepared comments that I want to make. And so I'll get to that first. It is time for some straight talk, and I don't want any of my comments to be misinterpreted as being disparaging towards individuals and especially towards staff members. I have no preconceived judgments regarding employees' ability to operate in their functions. What I do have preconceived opinions on is that we have not given the proper guidance to them. I have recently been accused of being anti-village, and nothing could be further from the truth. Linda and I love living here, but we do find ourselves frustrated with the politics that get played and how nothing really ever changes in the overall results. And we keep repeating huge financial mistakes. I also have no personal agenda other than I believe I can be instrumental in bringing about the change that is needed. Some of my comments are going to be taken as offensive to some, and for that, all I can tell you is that nothing being done is done in a mean-spirited vent. It is, however, designed to point out the very culture that exists that needs to be changed. I also want to take a minute to explain to you why I found it necessary to leave the board. And I hope by the end of these two sessions, you will have a better understanding of why. My decision to leave the board was not centered on any one specific situation, but rather several of them. However, all of them relate directly back to the cultural shift that will be discussed in these two sessions. For us, the POA, to move to the next level and secure our future, these changes must occur. While I have chosen to mostly keep these details to myself, I am happy to discuss with any property owner details should they actually be interested. However, several of my comments are going to come through this process and will tie back to my overall reason for leaving. So let's get into the current operating environment. We have had and continue to have an environment where input and concerns from property owners are largely ignored and discounted. I also don't believe that there is enough laser focus on property owners and the needs of the property owners. And we have too much focus on wants. Committees are often viewed as a hindrance to people getting their jobs done and are interfering with operations. And even the board can't intervene because they get accused of the same thing. And then there's always the old standby of the territoriality of and fear of losing jobs, and whether that's real or imagined to the employees, it doesn't really matter. So our current operating environment looks a little bit like this. Managers and staff, then the board of directors, with a huge amount of interaction between these two, as there should be. However, when it comes to property owners, we've been flagged as being disruptive and or whining and complaining, and largely the input has been ignored and totally discounted. So I believe this represents the culture that needs to be shifted. Our board members enter their office, I think, for the most part, with the best of intentions. At least that's what I've seen, and why wouldn't they? I mean, they spent the time and effort of running. But they quickly run into, you are interfering with operations. It's been experienced that they're not given complete and full information, and in some cases are told the information doesn't exist. So what message does that send? Well, it basically sends a message that staff is potentially hiding something or doesn't know what the information is. It doesn't matter. It's the message that gets sent that's important. And many property owners are feeling this and have felt this for years. And so what winds up happening is the go along to get along kind of mentality creeps in. And for whatever reason, and it doesn't really matter how, maybe because it's easier, many of the board members are convinced that the staff actually knows what they're doing, which I'm sure they do, but they just accept what is being provided to them. That's not a good environment to be in, given their responsibility to oversight and fiduciary responsibility. So this, in a nutshell, is the basis of why a cultural shift is required. Again, part two, we'll get into suggestions and recommendations as to how I see some of this could be, if not eliminated, certainly reduced. But, as I promised, I want to get into a little bit of why some of this is happening. And within weeks of the new GM coming on board, this board member was told to slow down and back off. Along that line, I also heard at least a half a dozen times, if not more, that I got this from the GM. I also heard that he had 20 years of experience. Great. Many members on that board have over 40 years of experience. That doesn't mean you're going to be an effective manager. The other problem that led into continuing what had been here before was that comments were made that the GM didn't care for the use of committees and that we had too many of them. Doesn't matter, sends the wrong message. We also had situations where the accusations were made about board members and volunteers that were not accurate and they were unfounded. Again, I can provide the details to you as I know, but I was never approached with the specific issues that they were making the accusations on. So we systematically removed volunteers from positions where they were helping the POA because, again, they were felt to be interfering with operations. Then we took out the treasurer for much the same reason. And even today, we're talking about eliminating a board level marketing committee. We have a committee or a marketing department of one person. Why, for one of the more important things that you have to do in an organization to increase your revenues, would you not want help with marketing, which has been a problem for at least 10 to 12 years and probably longer than that? We've had situations where staff has threatened to quit their jobs if certain people are placed on committees. Again, staff can't be having this kind of an impact on property owners trying to assist in the running of their POA. So now we're back to the staff being comprised of the 7-member board, although we had a chance to make it 7 members and we didn't do it for some reason, but there are 3 staff members. So today your board is comprised of 6 board members elected and 3 staff members. That just doesn't work, I'm sorry. And we also know that through the years we've had difficulty and impossibility obtaining information at the property owner level. So these are all contributors to the culture that needs to change. So what should this look like? Well, this should look like a team, is what it should look like. Property owners, board of directors, managers, and staff, all working for the same objective. And to some extent, I think we are, except that personal agendas, wants versus needs, are getting in the way and being driven at this level when they should be driven at this level through the elected officials. Not really happening that way today, folks. And that, again, in a nutshell, is pretty much the culture that I think needs to be changed. So what can we do? Again, part 2 will provide further details on this, but we need to ensure that all property or that all decisions are property owner centric. And what does that mean? Well, that means that the property owners have a say in how their money is spent. We have example after example where things are shoved down the property owners' throats, and I could list them, but there's no need. You probably all know what I'm talking about. It just isn't right, and we've got to figure out a way for the property owners to have a voice in the spending of the money that they're providing to the POA. The other thing is we have got to ensure that customer service is laser focused on the property owners, and again on needs and not wants. So with that, I'll finish up for today and go to the future funding task force meeting this afternoon and hopefully finish this up this weekend. So talk to you soon.